Hello everyone and welcome back to Make Believe. And we're playing World and Economica. Now, last time... Oh, I just realized showing the date when I last played the games. Oh, well, now you know when I recorded these episodes, huh? So, last time we went to the sewers to run from the policeman, and we ran into the waitress, who we learned she's called Luna, and the other girl, which Agana, I think was her name. I still not entirely sure. And now apparently we're gonna live with Luna and Hagana. So I guess we're going over there. It seemed as though the place I tumbled into. Oh, that's right. Let's look at the street at night. Yeah, the same as before. With the Pepsi, not Pepsi. The Fresh Moon store. Fresh Moon Fresh store. Oh, that's cool. Anyways. It seemed as though the place I tumbled into after running like mad wasn't a sewer. Oh, my bad. I guess I was wrong as well. It's not a sewer that he ran into. It was, more precisely, a reservoir. As Newton City was designed to gather everything, including people, water, and wealth, if there happened to be a problem with the city's water circulation facilities, there was a fear that the low-lying Newton City could flood. For that reason, there were apparently two additional layers of facilities for long-term water storage. So that water went from the outer sections to Green City, then from Green City to Newton City. Well, I didn't know the first thing about this. I didn't know that I was in a place with an incredibly fantastic atmosphere. And that was why the other towns generally forbid entry into those reservoirs. It's because couples that get together tend to be drawn towards places like that. I nod in agreement with this observation. Also, this area seemed to be quite a low-income neighborhood, even by the standard of the six outer section. It was full of homes on the verge of collapsing, even here on the gravity-weak moon. Even so, the many lights in the town made it easy to recognize that lots of people live there. My bad. For a town in the outer sections, this one was relatively old. Apparently, it used to be more lively in the past. As it was also night, there was almost nothing there related to liveliness. Actually, it looked like a scene out of some children's tale from long, long ago. Long, long ago, in a place far, far away. This place wasn't reality, but rather ruins from the real world. Why did I call it realm? From the real world, overlapping with the glory of days past. That's how the place looked to me, at least. But every once in a while, someone would go out of the eaves of their home under the imitation stars projected on the dome and amuse themselves by drinking alcohol or by playing a game of chess or Go. It may have been a poor area, but it seemed incredibly safe. Now I'm looking at the projected stars. Wow, it's beautiful. Though this kind of bothers, but I guess they get used to seeing this. They say that it was an old town, which must have meant that its residents had stopped developing the area. Newton City had developed at a rate that threatened to surpass even the most advanced nations on Earth. So some of the people have been attracted to it work so hard that you could refresh the list of humanity's richest people and see changes every day. To put it another way, the people who decided not to compete became comparatively poorer by the day. Getting poorer under capitalism means that you're being forced that much further back in the big race. Yep. Not only the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Not only that, I didn't want to become one of the masses. But if I failed, then I'd end up like those people. Hagana had finally stopped calling me smelly. There we go. See, I got her name right. Hagana. I rearranged her position on my back, then asked myself a question sternly. Are we still not there yet? Come on, don't be a kid, Chicharo. No matter how light they may be, people aren't the easiest things to carry on one's back. Okay, yeah, that's fair. For some reason I forgot that you're carrying Hagana, so your your question's fair. I apologize. Especially when it's a girl you're carrying. You have to watch where you put your hands. Understandable. Yep. Hearing my question, Lisa looked over her shoulder and nodded lightly. As I sighed, thinking that we still had more to go, Lisa's feet suddenly stopped. We're here! Hearing those words, I stopped my feet and raised my head. I wondered what kind of run-down hut we had arrived at, but to my surprise, I was facing an impressive gate. Actually, wasn't this a bit too impressive of a gate? 2 meters? 3 meters? Wait, more importantly, wasn't this... As I stood so dumbfounded that I forgot the Haganah was on my back, Lisa put a hand on the gate and slowly pushed it open. It didn't even seem to be locked, but considering what this place was, I could understand. Standing in front of me was a building that I had only ever heard of before. Sheltering people was my hobby. Do you see why now? She opened the double doors and walked in. The next thing I knew, a bearded dude stuck on a cross was right in front of me. I'm sorry, what? Oh, is this a church? Yep, it's a church. Welcome to the 6th Avenue Church. It took me a moment there to realize. I was like, a bearded dude stuck on a cross in front of you. That was a jump. But then I realized, wait, the gates. He was talking about the building. This is a church. Would all make sense then. Lisa said this to me while I was still in shock. You're a Christist? Not Christist. Christian. I thought that was something they only did on Earth. Oops. This was supposed to be a place on the forefront of science and human advancement. Why was there a church here? Or could it be that for people from Earth, this place far away in the sky was supposed to be heaven? As I looked at Lisa as if oh my god, let me restart that. I just jumbled up a lot of words. As I looked at Lisa as if she were some exotic animal, she gave a slightly embarrassed grin and shook her head. Well, I suppose you'd say that, but don't worry, I'm not going to try to convert you or anything. Huh. After a long silence, all I could manage was a puff of laughter through my nose. And by the way, are you still carrying Hagan on your back? According to my faith, all I'm to do is let lost sheep rest for a short time. It's the same thing for that girl on your back. And that answered my question. Hagana is still on his back. I had already forgot I was carrying Hagana. And before you were complaining about carrying her for too long, huh? Hey, we're here, so I'm gonna let you down. Hurry up and let me down. I felt a flash of anger, but since I was holding on to both her legs, I figured in the end it was a very natural thing to say. Yeah, your heart is always up like, whatever you say, I'm most likely gonna be angry at you. And then I'll think it over and decide if I should really be angry or if perhaps you're right. Though I was overwhelmed by the temptation to just let her go, I bent my knee slowly and let her down, 1 foot at a time. What did I say? Like, he's always being aggressive for no reason. At least he's thinking about it now. You can... Oh, sorry. You can stand? Hagana was silent, but she seemed to be amazed that she was standing. What a strange woman. So, what were we saying? Oh, so she's a runaway too? Right, same idea as Seralt. This place is a crossroad, and so, according to the teachings, I have a bucket for washing feet and a cup of cold water ready to give. Feet? Water? I made a face as if to say, what is this woman even talking about? Lisa saw it and, instead of getting angry, she breathed a disappointed sigh. Not gonna lie, I'm a little lost as well, Yosharo. Do you happen to be born and bred on the moon? Yes, but so what? After I asked this back at her, Lisa shook her head, disappointed. Was she making fun of me? Was that what it was? See, I'm telling you, your chart takes everything as an insult. And then he considers other options. As I glared at her, Lisa looked toward the statue of the dude stuck on a cross, placed her hands together, and bowed her head. Oh Lord, you have brought upon me a great trial. Then, as she said this, she made a strange gesture with her right hand in front of her body. Oh, she was doing the cross. As I wondered what she was doing, Lisa faced me and began to speak. For now, why don't you take a bath? I'm not trying to be Hagana, but you are a little dirty. Being told this to my face was actually a bit embarrassing. Oh, I'm sorry. As I said this, trying to hide my embarrassment, Hagana, who had been watching the situation quietly, picked up where Lisa left off. In fact, you smell terrible. Thank you. That's really gonna help any situation. After that, I began to be especially conscious about my own body. Okay, so maybe that did help. That day, I realized I was at far more emotional and innocent age than I had thought. Yeah, because you were just living on your own with perhaps the cafe owner nearby, but now you're having to interact with two girls, one around your age and one older, and you're realizing how immature emotionally and innocent you are. It was the first proper bath I had since running away from home, and I was on the verge of tears. How long have you been away from home again? I do not remember. Just to clarify, to understand how long he hasn't taken a shower. Proper bath, at least. Both of my parents were immigrants from Japan, so soaking in the tub was pretty much a daily tradition. It would be the only luxury my parents enjoyed, if I had to think of any. You could find water circulating all over the lunar surface, but you definitely couldn't say water was inexpensive because of that. And now we have no music and no background, huh? I heard that the reason they made water flow visibly everywhere was because water had a calming effect on the human soul. Even if that weren't true, I heard that all but a few places on Earth were short of water, and that half of international disputes stem from water resources issues. Yeah, that makes sense. Perhaps the visible presence of water was to put some of the immigrants' anxiety to rest, since they believed that fights over water resources were an everyday occurrence due to their coming from various regions on Earth. However, what I was currently soaking in was apparently water siphoned off before final processing, and thus it was quite cheap. At the bottom of the tub, I could see pieces of aquatic plants used for water purification, like I'd seen waterways. It wasn't just water that was limited on the moon. Unlike Earth, the moon didn't have vast quantity of various resources, like plants, like they had to gather some specific plants and treat them in a specific way, if I recall him explaining earlier. Most of them were created from chemical processing of native lunar materials, or failing that, imported via the orbital elevator. That's why people said that the government organization in charge of managing the lunar surface had terribly precise control over the flow of various materials throughout the city. The most important of those was water, and thus the amount of oxygen and hydrogen. Oh, that's interesting. I did not think about the oxygen and hydrogen. Any amount of oxygen could be obtained by using a plentiful amount of solar radiation to break down silicon dioxide, sand. In other words, hydrogen, however, could only be obtained via hydrocarbons that only exist at the poles. I sort of understand what he's saying and sort of don't. Kind of in the middle. Hydrogen is too light for the most gravity to retain it, and thus naturally occurring hydrogen was quite rare. Carbon could be obtained by using limitless electrical power here to break down solid carbon dioxide shipped in from the orbital elevator. Oxygen could also be obtained from this process, thus killing two birds with one stone. Nitrogen and the various minerals needed for the growth of plants and animals can only be obtained through chemical pellets transported into the orbital elevator. I'm just making the picture in my head about this stuff. Kind of hard, but yeah. This basic knowledge was supposedly taught to all kids in elementary school during science class. Unfortunately, I hadn't really applied myself in school. It does had to learn it much later. So in elementary school, they learned about hydrocarbons and gases. I do not remember what I learned in elementary school. I don't think that was it, at least. What got me to learn about this was when I had first started seriously trading stocks and wanted to figure out who had the best slice of the moon when it came to various systems on the moon. I had naively thought that investing in that would guarantee smooth sailing, and that would be that. I had learned a lot while operating under that notion. Thus, it wasn't all the rose tinted stuff they teach you at school. I Okay, never mind. I was gonna say they don't teach you about stock trading at school, but then I remember sixth grade, I think, maybe fifth. It might have been sixth grade. I did learn about stocks. So yeah, never mind. They do teach it at school. I remember citing in awe at the system revolving around the rights tied to important resources in lunar cities. The public parts were, of course, controlled by the government, but the most powerful on the civilian side had to be Emerald Industries, which held the civilian rights to the orbital elevator. By the way, if you were wondering about why the company was named after emeralds, it was because a long time ago people said the moon's core was made of emeralds. I'm sorry, what? Oh, Emerald Industries. My just I was just reading that and I did not register. I was still thinking about the stocks and the school stuff. Okay. So emeralds, huh? Like the seven emeralds, the chaos emeralds. There we go. That's the name I was trying to remember. It was originally a maintenance company, but since it was such a complicated piece of machinery, there weren't many qualified guys who could work on it. This was a textbook example of what would happen if they were also quite crafty. And once again, Shar giving us a lot of, at least it seems, unneeded explanation for a long time. The majority of the infrastructure on the moon was under the umbrella of Emerald Industries and its related subsidiary companies. There we go. During this time, it took During the time it took for me to come out of the bathroom, dry myself off, and put on the obviously old t-shirt and pants, I must have interacted with products from 100 to 200 of Emerald Industries' various subsidiaries. Wow, really? This was a totally artificial city. So artificial, it would put Las Vegas and Dubai to shame, even though those were lauded cities with fountains in the desert. Yeah, yeah, I hadn't seen either city with my own eyes. Me neither. But I had seen footage of them. Me too. People on Earth sure were idiots. I thought candidly to myself. Of course, Ryushihara has that mentality. Why wouldn't he? Oh, hello, Lisa. I'll freshen up. There we go. Lisa reading a book. Oh, I don't think I ever noticed her bracelet with the cross. Maybe that would have given away that she was Christian earlier. When I came out of the changing room, Lisa was lying back on the sofa. Wait, where? Is this a sofa? I don't think so. When I came, yeah, there was a cup of water she poured for me on the table. The changing room connected straight into the living room. It was an old and worn sofa set that she must have picked up from a dump somewhere, along with a coffee table and a carpet whose corner must have mended countless times. There was no TV, but there was a computer. Also on the coffee table was a multifunctional terminal that Lisa had been using just now. What had surprised me was the thick book next to it. It was a rare event to see real books on the moon, where space and resources were limited. Oh, right. I was like, why are books so rare? And then, right, everything's, the space is limited, which, just look at my own room, I would have a hard time. I think I have over 300 manga volumes. That's without counting all the board games and video games I have. So, yeah, I'm not sure how I would live with the limited space like that. I had gotten to relatively recently that books were simply an application interface format. I didn't realize that the thing that resembled what was drawn on the screen actually existed. Of course, new generation. There's that generation gap. They don't know about some old stuff. Like ROM disk. Right. Is that what it's called in English? I do not remember the English name. But the thing that is the save button icon. Like kids, they probably don't even know about it. Maybe they've seen or heard about it on the internet. But yeah, just the generations just not learning about the old stuff and just seeing icons of it. People who came from Earth made fun of people who grew up on the moon for things like that. I can see that. I don't. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying I can see that being the case. However, from my point of view, people on Earth were the ones who had something messed up in their heads, since they still stuff their ridiculous bulky books into places like libraries. Okay, reading from a physical book, it feels better than reading a digital book, okay? There are benefits for both. Is it rare to see a real book? Oh look, she's looking up. I came to I came to when Lisa asked me a question. Once more, she had the multifunctional terminal in her hand, most likely reading a book again. Well, even if I had snapped back saying that I don't know what I don't know, her treating me like some naive idiot would piss me off. And thus I mumbled my reply while putting on a poker face. Well, Lisa didn't make fun of me. Yeah, you should have learned by now that she's not really making fun of you. And really mature answer, just mumble to yourself and then put on a poker face. Well, they certainly take up space. They also get dirty easily, so you'd have to take good care of them. Furthermore, you couldn't really search them, so the digital version is 100 times better. I instantly realized she was doing this out of consideration for me. It was as if she were some kindergarten teacher who had a good idea what would cause immigrants from Earth and moonbred kids to get into a fight. And that is... I pointed at the thick but worn book on the table. There were some gold-colored alphabet-looking characters on the back cover, but I couldn't quite parse them. B-I-B-L? Okay, Bible, I got it. This to me was the most important book in the world, and thus I brought it with me from Earth. even though I parted with Julie, who had been with me since the day I was born. Oh, oh, she's my pet dog, by the way. Even if I parted with Julie, I could not bear to leave that book back on Earth. But thank you for explaining, because I thought Julie was a person, like your best friend, your sister or something. And I see, so you put the Bible over your pet dog. Huh. Lisa laid the mobile terminals aside and carefully stroked the front cover of the tattered book. Upon seeing that, I flashed back to when I was a naive kid being patted on the head by my parents' hands, roughened from working outdoors. When did you when did you come here from Earth? We got chased out of our place when I was 11. With that, my parents made the bold move to apply for Luna immigration. We didn't really have money, thus had to apply through the commerce category, which had ridiculous odds. Well, my parents' profession were kind of special, and since the NOAA system was still in effect, we managed to get placed into a preferential category. NOAA system? As in the Noah's Ark, I guess? Ah, it was how people referred to the system for the preservation of multiculturalism. Though I guess you wouldn't know about it unless you were involved in it. Well, there was a story about Noah's Ark. There it is. Well, there was some legend or oral tradition or teaching or whatever that talked about how when the world had turned to evil and was destroyed by a huge flood, good people and a pair of animals rode out the flood in a boat and went on to create the virtuous world after the water had receded. Something like that. My parents were both theological scholars. I guess they needed people of that odd profession as well. This was the first time I had heard the term theological scholar. Probably for me too. Lisa picked up the nearby terminal and showed me the dictionary entry. They were apparently people who studied religious teachings. Yeah, makes sense. Theological. Yeah. I was really surprised that people who gave up their lives to such useless things were here on the moon. And thus, this book was like myself. To someone like me who had been raised in such a household, there were many authors depending on which chapter it was, but it was mostly written around 2,000 years ago. It's actually the best-selling book on Earth, you know? Oh? Is it that interesting? Lisa laughed out loud when I started to show a bit of an interest in the book while looking at it. Well, no, sorry. Well, if you ask me whether it was interesting or not, I'd say it was interesting in its own way, but it isn't really that kind of book. This is called the Bible. Remember that figure you saw in the church? This was the book written by the disciple of the guy pinned up there. It's a book of religious teaching, so to speak. They estimate that over 1 billion copies had been sold. A billion copies. It's because it could be found everywhere on Earth. It was translated into the words spoken by people all over the Earth. So, in other words, everyone on Earth reads it? If only that were the case. A question mark appeared on my face when I heard Lisa's reply. Yeah, because he's not familiar with Earth cultures and such. The Earth's population is roughly 6.5 billion. Yeah, it's a bit higher than that, actually. Even in an age where 700,000 of those could come to the moon, roughly a third of the people on Earth could read, and two-thirds had no surrounding where they could sit down and read a book. The remaining fortunate one-third had ton of other forms of entertainment. There were few people reading the Bible nowadays, even among Christians. Even at the church I attended, there were few people who knew there were 4 books that comprise the Gospels, and even less people that knew the name of the 4 authors. You probably don't understand how sad that fact is. Yeah, because babes, they are not really interested in the Bible. Sorry, totally don't have a clue here. Well, that's alright. Aaron got a heavy load due to the just having carefully watched over this old church. Still, knowledge passes on when people cross paths. Trivia used to refer to wisdom, and the world's original meaning was that of a three-way intersection where people would cross paths. I had to wonder what would be the point of having all these lost people meeting at such an intersection. It was perhaps a sign that I realized I should be a shepherd, watching over sheep. Careful how you pronounce that, because it may sound like you're just calling us animals. I said us, but I meant Yoshiharu and Hagana. Which, by the way, we had not seen Hagana yet since they came back. A shepherd. I've seen images of sheep being herded by sirens and electrical fences before, while researching certain potential investment candidates. But how was this related to manager of those factories? Seeing me totally drawing a blank, Lisa laughed weakly and said, "Sorry, it's just a metaphor. I actually I haven't seen Rio Shepherd yet either. I guess it was just a matter of not knowing stuff because I was born on the moon. I was at least a little bit relieved of that. Yeah, he has a complex about his born place, born satellite, born planet. I'm pretty much that type of person. People would certainly wonder why I came to the moon to do such a thing. Well, I do think that. Lisa chuckled at my frank statement. Well, now let's talk about you, okay? Since she went to the trouble to save me from the police, bring me here since it looked like I had no place to go, even letting me take a bath. My good character dictated that answer. I'm impressed that it took all of that for him to accept giving her an answer to her question. I come from a settlement village on the outskirts of the eastern outer district. Oh, that great place with all the greenery, right? Outsiders all say that. Isn't it just because we're all from the Stone Age? People who'd come to the moon were all city dwellers back when they were on Earth. They missed their greenery. I was beginning to feel that I was being blanked and confused by high-level logic. Are the cities on Earth full of greenery then? Well, I guess the way I worded it was kind of bad. I don't know, I feel like I understood. And Yoshiharu's question just made not as much sense. Anyways, even on Earth, there wasn't that much greenery in the cities. For some reason, people are attracted to the natural outdoors from times long gone past. Perhaps it's something ingrained in us. Aren't you the same? I was about to refute her point, but decided against it. In either case, I ran away from home over there. Okay, your name? Is it okay to ask? Lisa asked me if I was showing any sign of trying to forcing me. Like I'd like to be able to get away with not answering that if I said no. That's fine if you don't want to. But I feel like I actually spoke in somebody's wrong tone there. At some point there in the conversation. I don't really know who, but I feel like somebody made a question and I said it with the wrong person. But it would be kind of inconvenient to call for you, so I like some sort of name. The girl you carried on your back, she's called Hagana. It's not her real name. Huh? Well, it's not like she doesn't want to open up to me, but she's like a wild animal in that she's very cautious about things. Hagana is originally a word for the language of the wanderers. Well, Actually, does anything come to mind when I use the term wondrous? No idea. I guess that's to be expected. But I guess the moon thread being free from Earth had this kind of meaning. Hmm? Sorry, talk to myself again. My first time talking to a kid who was born and bred up. What? So, I guess heard the saying this? Sorry, talking to myself again. It's my first time talking to a kid who was born and bred on the moon. People born and bred on the moon, there's still probably not even 10,000 or so. People working in Newton City said that it was due to the fact that many people weren't able to have children. Most of the people who came from Earth were 10 years old at the youngest when they rode the orbital elevator. There was a huge difference in gravity between the moon and the Earth, and thus there were issues with their bodies. Of course, to them, Earth was their birthplace, and the common sense they possessed came from there as well. Well, this really is like trivia, the whole paths crossing exchanging wisdom thing. Lisa smiled with satisfaction while uttering those words. If that girl clad in black Hagana could be considered strange, then Lisa must also be strange for helping and harboring me. Anyhow, even this day and age and living on the moon, she's all into religion and shares her real books. To put it bluntly, I wonder if she was a social outcast. However, I had a favorable impression of Lisa, even though she didn't seem to take part in the competitions that rag on in this competitive city. Did he say he had a favorable impression of her? Still a bit on the fence, but at least is leaning positive. It was true she wasn't pushing ahead, but it didn't feel like she was falling back either. Even in this low gravity environment, Lisa appeared to have her feet planted firmly on the ground. She looked at me as if she were enjoying just living her life. I was a bit moved seeing that people like that actually existed. I had thought there were three types of people on the moon: the rough and crude from my village, who were refined only in speech, the decadent people from the outer section who couldn't be helped, and the residents of Newton City who took advantage of the low gravity to jump up to lofty heights. Well, what a way to express that sentence. I liked it. There were These were my thoughts as I looked at Lisa, who was smiling happily to herself. Feels like she could at least be trusted. Yoshihara. Hmm? Huh? Kawara Yoshihara. Oh, your name? It's my real name. So if you report me, they quickly notify my parents. After my blunt answer, Lisa looked at me for a moment. Then a smile spread over her face. I see. I got it. Well then, how about just how? Yoshi. Yoshi. Wait, what was his. Kawada Yoshiharu. She got how from her? Wow, that's weird. Hmm? Even if I called you just by just your first name, would it really narrow down who you are? It would be obvious you're that kid of Japanese immigrants. If we're just how, then that would be an issue. Yeah, okay, I see the meaning of that. Of course, there wasn't a real word for turning someone in, but the fact that someone didn't do it from the get-go was also a bit creepy. It just was a good thing for me, but suspicion had become a daily thing with my 3 months of wandering around. Okay, so so if I get it right, you've been running away from your family for 3 months, and for 3 months you haven't had a decent bath. Lisa noticed the look of suspicion on my face and said, well, if this were Earth, I could just say, the Lord's will be done, and smile, and everyone would accept it. Totally have no clue what you're talking about. Well, that's true. This is the moon after all. Although sometimes I start getting the urge to put one of those on. That was what she said, and I wonder what she meant. Though from her expression, she probably just dodged the question if I asked her. However, it pains me that Haganah would fit better in them. Looks like my hair color is too light. Lisa talked to herself while brushing her hair with her fingers. She wasn't on Hagen's level, but I thought she had beautiful straight hair. Back in the village, everyone placed blonde women on a pedestal. I kinda like girls with deeper colored hair. To put it bluntly, like someone who's in front of me right now. Speaking of which, I wonder what that girl's doing now. It's almost time to sleep. Perhaps she wasn't planning on taking a bath? And right after she said that, I heard a door open on the other side of the hall leading to the living room and footsteps afterward. As if that someone wait was waiting just for the moment when Lisa was about to get up from the sofa. And I believe that's Hagana, and I guess we'll stop here. A lot of conversation. I was just wanting to end this scene here, which I'm guessing right after click here it's gonna change the scene, but we'll leave that for later. So with that being said, see you next time. Bye.